Hello, my name is Jerry and I am a grower here with True Leaf Market, and I am here today to talk about planting flowers in the fall. It's easier than you think and usually works like a charm. There are several flowers, in fact, that benefit from being planted in the fall because of their stratification requirements, and it gives you something to do as the season is closing down. Techniques you can use for fall planting, a lot of it is done simply by prepping a bed, just a seed bed where you're actually going to grow the seed. Go ahead and scatter the seed over it, lightly kind of rake it in with like a cultivator or a garden rake a little bit, and water it down. And then just leave it. I would recommend putting a mulch over the top of it at this point, and it's real important that you get it well marked so that next spring you remember where that is and don't disturb it. Then in the spring, when it comes up, you would go out and thin down to an appropriate spacing of these plants, and you're off to a new season. Some of the perennials, and there's actually even some annuals, that can easily be fall planted. For a list of this stuff, go to our website. On the website there'll be a list of flowers that you can plant in the fall. In particular, fall planting can be helpful for plants that require cold stratification. If you're not familiar with cold stratification, it's just Mother Nature's way of delaying the germination of some seeds so that they don't come up at an inappropriate time. So if the plant drops its seed during the summer or fall, it's better for that seed if it waits until spring to germinate with the spring moisture. The plants wouldn't be strong enough to survive our winters. You can mimic that by cold stratification both indoors if you want to, like in a refrigerator, or you can just do it by planting out of doors right where you want the perennials to grow in your garden. And by the way, there are some annuals that you can do that with as well. Or I'll show you my favorite technique for doing it in pots that you actually, in small 4-inch pots that you actually leave outside, but then you've already got them ready to move into your garden when you're ready next spring instead of planting right where they're going to be. Let's talk about first planting them directly where they're going to be. For that, you just create a seed bed where you want that plant to be. Go ahead and scatter the seeds there, lightly rake it in with a cultivator or a rake, and then water them in to kind of settle them in place. I recommend putting a mulch over them at this point. And then also please remember to mark them real well so that you know where they are next spring. My memory isn't what it used to be. Another alternative is to do the stratification in paper towels or in sand or in peat moss and put them in the refrigerator. Take a wet paper towel, put your seeds in it, roll it up. You can put that wet paper towel into a dry one and then put them into a baggie and seal it up and put them in your refrigerator for at least 30 days. You can go longer, it doesn't hurt. And then when you take them out, you can go ahead and sow them like normal. So the idea is, for instance, if you're planning to start your Columbine indoors in about February, you would get your seed and put it in the fridge and like this baggie we spoke about in January to give them at least 30 days, and then pull them out, plant them up like normal in your light garden, and they should germinate for you more successfully than if you was to do it without the cold stratification. And with some of them, like Columbine, in my experience, it makes a big difference. In addition to using paper towel, you can also use wet sand, or moist peat moss. Just put that into your freezer bag and put that into your refrigerator. Works the same. And I'm going to also talk to you about one of my favorite ways to do it, and which actually doesn't need the refrigerator at all. It's outside, but it's not in the bed that they're going to be growing. It's actually in containers. I use little 4-inch pots like this, usually in a flat. We're going to go ahead and you plant them into these little containers like this, at least a few seeds per 4-inch container. Go ahead and cover them up, wet them down good, and then set this whole flat outside, someplace that is going to be sheltered, going to be out of the sun, protected from the wind. And I put it underneath my deck. That's a great place on the north side of the house where the temperature doesn't fluctuate tremendously every day. There's no wind damage. And then early next spring, when the weather is warming up, I'll move this flat out into a sunny spot in my garden underneath the sprinklers, and the perennials will come up on their own and soon be ready to be transplanted into the garden.